Hi everyone, my name's Mary and I love to share the many projects I have going on around here with you all. Today's video will be a cottage update. As you could probably tell by the thumbnail, a lot of you have been asking about them, and I thought since John and I are over there working a lot these days, I thought I'd do a video on them. Also share some painting and staining tips that we've learned along the way with this new housing project, and Pebbles decided to join us. So I want to take you through, kind of start way at the beginning and share with you kind of the different steps that we've gone through with building these cottages. I don't want it to be a boring video because I realize this is probably not everybody's interest, but I do want to give a shout out to some of the builders, the people that have helped us make this happen. I'm also going to ask you guys for help with coming up with names for these cottages. I have had such a hard time. I'm always this way about things like this, like I'm way too picky. It has to be that perfect name, and I think what it is, like I love being over there and I know what it sounds like, what it smells like, and I just need to incorporate all of that into the perfect name, if that makes sense, and that's probably why I can't come up with one. We do have a name finally for the whole place, like the business, but not each individual cottage. I wanted to name those. That way if somebody rents one, they know where they're going to. Like we'll have a little sign out by the cottages, stating the name of it. So let's start way at the beginning. It has always been a dream of mine and John's to have something like this, to actually be able to host people, to rent something out. I think the most fun part about all of this will be to fix it up and just make it so cozy that people don't even want to leave. Like I want to add all these little perks and just special little things that people will always remember when they visit the cottages. I could go on and on about that, and I've said this before, because of you guys, watching my videos and supporting my Etsy shop, this is all made possible. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And again, like I mentioned, we always dreamed of something like this, but when it actually came up, like the land opportunity where we could possibly, build something like this, because around here it's really hard to find land. I'll show you that clip of that first evening. I'm always going to keep that. Just remember the cows were in the pasture and just the view that we had. Everything is so peaceful there. I mean, there's some roads close by, you have some traffic, but as a whole, you kind of feel like you're just in the countryside. And it's just a very nice, peaceful place. But I'll never forget that first evening and, taking that video clip. We just couldn't believe this was happening. And if you guys know me, you know that I was just so excited to be able to design these cottages, come up with the prints, and I instantly downloaded some apps and played around with them, seeing what I could use, to actually design these cottages. And I have my tablet here. I thought I'd show you guys. I wanted to get the name right for sure, but I used an app called the Room Planner, and I'll try to put the little logo here on the screen or the name in case any of you want to check it out. But it is a free app, although you have to pay like a monthly fee then to export your little prints and your drawings, which I did need to do that, of course. But I created the prints using the Room Planner app, and then I also was able to, this was the most fun part ever, I was able to put everything in a 3D mode and actually go into the little houses and decorate and stuff. I mean, I just had so much fun. Often, I admit, this happened during the night. Like that was the only time I had to actually work on these. I often saw 1 and 2 o'clock just working. I couldn't stop. Like I was actually obsessed. And I created the prints to be the same, like the layout and the cottages are both the same, but I do want them to be different on the inside, like different themes or color schemes. And honestly, they're not going to have much color. You can probably guess that, white cottage. They're going to be white, like all the walls, but I did want to add some different accents, in each cottage. And then, of course, the next step was finding a builder to help us, and we chose JDM and have never regretted it. I mean, honestly, if you want a builder that is there for you, that will answer any questions and just patient and also give tips and advice and just be on time with everything, good quality. I can't say enough about JDM Structures. We met with Adam numerous times. Again, great to work with, and he's actually a friend of ours too, so that was really a lot of fun for us, getting to sit down with him and just being very comfortable about it all. And we signed contracts, and this was actually going to happen. And the first step, of course, was walking out to the land and deciding where to place the cottages. And initially we thought we'd probably put 3 of them in there, and I'm so glad now that we just went with 2. I think it looks perfect, the layout. There is some land left over if we'd ever decide to do a 3rd one, but for now we just love how it looks with the 2, and it kind of gives more privacy, per cottage that way. And we had a little groundbreaking ceremony, did a prayer over the whole project. All this was so exciting. And of course, one of the first steps is finding an excavator to do some land. Just now a huge bumblebee flew in here. I should just let him out because that's what he wants. Of course, one of the first things when building is get an excavator to kind of level the land where your buildings will be. And we got Freiberg Excavating to do that. Also did an amazing job. From there, JDM Structures kind of took over. They got the masons to come lay the blocks. We have a crawl space underneath each cottage. And this was all happening this winter, in the cold of the winter. I always felt bad for those guys out there working on top of a hill where it was often windy and cold. After the blocks were laid, of course, it got more and more exciting because next was the structure part, like the actual wood. That's where your house starts to get shape, And JDM makes their walls in their facility, like at their shop, and then they bring them out to the job site, put everything together. And I tell you, every time they put something new up and we went over there to check it out, I was so nervous. What if it wouldn't look right? You spend so much time, designing something, you're not sure how it's going to look in real life then. But I gotta say, I wasn't ever disappointed. The only thing I don't like right now about the cottages is the color of them, but that will be changed. They just have a primer on them. We actually went with it's called Smart Side, I believe, and I'll flash the name on the screen just to make sure I have that right. It's either Smart Board or Smart Side, and it's really, I think it's going to look great once everything's finished. But it's going to be painted white. And once the structures were up, next came the rough plumbing and electric work. My dad's an electrician, so he did the electric work. And we got Kaufman Plumbing and Heating to do the plumbing part. And both, of course, were easy to work with and did a good job. One of the next steps was insulating. I never saw buildings get insulated so fast. I'm not sure that it didn't take them maybe just barely a day to do both of the cottages. Mooney and Moses did that. I'm sure I'll probably end up doing some voiceovers as I find footage that I'm not mentioning here. My highlight, of course, has been, just going over there and doing some of the work ourselves. Here and there we were able to do that. Sometimes we took the boys along, even if it was just to, clean things up a bit. John, of course, had some more work over there to do with, putting some blocking in. Areas where you'd actually have to fasten something to the wall, like a TV or beams or cabinets. Places like that we needed to install, extra 2x4s or blocking just to have a place to, fasten the things. So this winter we ordered some beams. I knew we wanted some beams to be in we have a cathedral ceiling in the living room part, and then also in the kitchen. Just wanted some wood up there in the ceiling. And we got those from Walnut Valley Log Homes. We got some white pine beams, And I wanted to show you guys the process on kind of how we went about to finish them. I felt like I learned a lot with staining new beams like this. We really learned that it's important to use a pre-stain. I never would have bothered with that in the past. Of course, I never did a big project like this either, but it just saved us so much work. What it is this pre-stain you put on first, and then you put your actual colored stain. In this case, aged oak was the color that we used. Put that over the pre-stain, and it kind of just, I don't want to say melt it, but it kind of spread your stain like throughout the beam. Like these beams were kind of rough, so it really saved on not having to use as much stain, and it didn't take as much time with all the dipping of the brush and, you know, applying the stain and then rubbing it off. It just made it so much easier. Like, you guys wouldn't believe the difference, you know, just trying to stain without using a pre-stain versus, you know, using it. And I do want to mention, I didn't really follow the rules on what the can said. It said to wait 5 to 15 minutes before applying your stain over top. We actually applied the stain over top while it was still wet, like the pre-stain was still wet. So that really helped with just spreading it out. And I didn't want the beams to be too dark. That aged oak was just a little bit too dark for me, and I thought with using the pre-stain, it kind of helped to kind of fade it out and just not make it quite as dark. I'm really, really impressed with how they turned out. And then after everything was dry, we actually had some nice days where we worked out in the sun, and of course it's always windy there, so the beams, you know, dried fairly fast. And even that same day, we actually applied the polyacrylic, just used my go-to polyacrylic by Minwax, applied a coat of that over the stain. And the final step that we're actually doing, I think as I'm filming here, John might be over there doing that, is just taking a really fine grit sandpaper, maybe one of those blocks even I think he was going to use, and just go over the beams very lightly, not removing any of the polyacrylic or anything, but it just takes care of any little splinters that may have come up. Because sometimes if you apply, you know, a wet product, in this case the polyacrylic would have pulled some of that up. It just makes them nice and smooth, or smoother and easier to clean in the future. That way we'll be able to actually take a damp rag over them, and our lint won't get caught, you know, in the little splinters. Oh, the painting part. You guys know how I like to paint, and I've had so much fun over there painting. What we're doing is just putting one coat of paint over everything, and then once the trim is installed, the trim is also primed already. So then we'll just give everything one coat of paint and it'll be finished. Sounds pretty simple, right? I'm sure it's going to take some time, but I'm really excited for that. And then we also have some shiplap walls. You know, I needed that shiplap in here. And John wanted to go with actual shiplap. You guys have seen my tutorials here at home, like in the shop and in our living room. I had just taken wood strips and put them on the wall. Probably the cheaper way of doing it, especially once we had to buy all of this shiplap. Didn't realize it was so expensive, but I think it's going to be worth it. And of course we didn't have to put drywall on those walls because the shiplap is thick enough. As far as any painting tips, I always hold my roller this certain way. You can probably tell here in the video, the part where, I'm not sure how to explain it, but the end of the roller, like not where the handle is attached to, but the other part, I have that always going away from the area that I just finished painting. That way it kind of smooths it out better. Again, that's probably just me. I think we all have to learn our own little you know, perks and tips that kind of go with painting. There's definitely not just one way of doing it, but this is just my own way. I kind of always do it that way to make sure I don't get any marks on my walls, like paint marks. Of course, painting a new building like this is so easy compared to, you know, if you paint your own house with no trim or anything to work around. Normally I like to, you know, trim first using a brush, getting those corners where the roller can't reach, and then the ceiling next, and then after that the walls. And again, I'm sure there's other ways of doing this, but this has worked for us over the years. We were thankful for my dad's help. He helped us with painting the second cottage. So getting back to names, I wanted to share with you what we decided to name the whole place. So years ago, there used to be an old orchard where the cottages are at. And if you guys know me, you know this is really fascinating to me. I love anything gardening related and nature, and orchards always have fascinated me, even as a little girl. We never had one here, but I know, some of my cousins and friends would have orchards that we play in. Like I always remember maybe an old ladder by a tree, and maybe taller grass with some wildflowers, and maybe even a bench to sit on, and just birds and fruit, and just a lovely place to be. So what would be more fitting than to name these cottages Old Orchard Cottages? And we are actually planning on creating another orchard. I'm so happy that John is okay with this. Like, he was all for it. He kind of likes these things too. And we plan to plant some fruit trees. We want to do it this summer yet. And eventually even have some other gardens maybe for people to walk through. We just want it to be a place where people can stay and just find peace, and maybe, sit out there, enjoy some of the nature, maybe even pick a peach or an apple. Now that that name is out of the way, we still need to name each individual cottage, and that's where I need your help. I'm just kind of stuck with it. I do have some ideas. I have some words that I like. I'll share those with you. That way you kind of know what I'm thinking. I was thinking maybe a bird name or a plant name, or maybe something with fields or pasture, something that is really fitting to the location. And hopefully you can tell by some of this drone footage and just the location, some of the views. Maybe you guys can help me with this. There's lots of farms in view. Like, could we throw farm in there, although it's not a farm? Something with fruit maybe, being that there's going to be fruit trees. I think you guys kind of know what track I'm on, so I just need help with putting something together. Some of the birds that you hear up there, first of all, there was always this mockingbird. I haven't heard her recently, but earlier this spring she just sang all day long. It sounded so musical. And then also meadowlarks, you hear those all the time. So I thought, could I incorporate that into the names? I feel like once I hear it, I know it's going to be perfect. And just to give you an idea, Cottage 1 is going to have more of an Old English cottage theme. We even plan to have some brick tile on the wall. And then Cottage 2 will be more your farmhousey, maybe, greens and, lots of shiplap, subway tile, that sort of thing. So I'll give you a quick little tour of one of the cottages. The layout is actually the same in both of them, so I really just need to show you one. So moving inside, this area here will have a little kitchen, a sink in front of the window, an island kind of in the center, and then the space right here will have a little table, and the living room is here. Got a fireplace, and one of my favorite things about this whole room here is the beams that are in the ceiling. Love these beams. And the beams that are sitting here will also be put up there, and here's all the shiplap along with some other trim. So standing between the kitchen and the dining area, of course you see the fireplace in here, and any walls that don't have drywall will be shiplapped. And you can see there's a small hallway. The bedroom is here and the bathroom is here. And in the hallway here there's going to be a washer and a dryer closet. And that will be available for people to use. I love that for myself if we stay somewhere, if I have access to a washer and dryer, so that was pretty important. And in case you're wondering, the windows still have that film over them. We thought we'd just leave that on there until everything is trimmed and painted, just to protect them. But this is the bedroom. The bed will probably be against this wall here. And maybe a wardrobe or something along this wall. It was kind of hard. We couldn't really fit a closet in here, so we thought we'd just do with like a piece of furniture or a hall tree or something. And moving out into there's a closet, probably a locked closet in here, and then the bathroom. And the bathroom has kind of two separate little rooms. The one is a shower room. That is with a tub in it. This is the future tub. It doesn't look like one now, but This will be cut out, like a section of this will be cut out, and the tub will rest in there. And then the shower will be here, coming out of this wall. And then the bathroom, this is where the vanity will be. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, even though it was a little different from my usual, and I promise the next ones will be more, you know, fixing up the front porch and the deck and just fun things like that. As always, I hope your day is going great. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.